Welcome to a special episode of the Monetize Your Ministry podcast. So, back on September 25th of 2023, this year, I did a summit, a Monetize Your Ministry summit, where six guests, six experts in their own field, shared from their story, shared from their expertise, and it was amazing. Listen, if you were a part of that summit, you know just how impactful it was, and there were so many people who gained value from it and actually went and took action on the things they learned in the summit. Well, this episode, we're going to feature one of those presenters and their presentation from the summit in its entirety. The 20 minutes that you're going to hear from Dr. Amber Wright are pure gold. Dr. Amber Wright, as you'll hear me say in this episode, is my business coach. Back in 2018, when I was making my transition, she was the person that I paid to help me to navigate and to figure out exactly what it is that I had to build a business on. So you're going to hear from Dr. Wright in this episode. And listen, the summit that we did back in September was so impactful. We're going to do it again in the new year, early in 2024. So look out for the next Monetize Your Ministry Summit. And now check out this episode from Dr. Amber Wright. And the first person up this evening is my business coach, Dr. Amber L. Wright. I told you I was going through this phase of frustration. I don't know what I had. And one of the persons I reached out to was Dr. Amber L. Wright, because she is a communications expert and she's the founder of Words Well Said. Like, Dr. Amber knows how to craft messages. So if you're someone you don't know how to exactly say what you want to say and what your message is, Dr. Amber is the person. So at this time, I want to bring up Dr. Amber L. Wright. Well, hello, Dr. Amber.
Good evening.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you.
It is so good to have you on.
So excited.
Hey, listen, I'm so excited myself. I couldn't do this summit without having you as one of our guest presenters, Dr. Amber.
Oh, well, thank you for the invitation, friend.
So it was about 5-6 years ago when I was getting ready to make my transition from full-time pastoral ministry as my job that I reached out to you and said, Amber, I've been gaining knowledge from you, but I want some help. I want to know how to make this transition to entrepreneurship. Yeah. And I need to know how to put what I'm saying and what I'm doing into words. And you've helped me with that. And so thank you. And I want you to help us today. There is a thing you do in your coaching where you close your eyes and God is downloading. I want you to do that for somebody this evening. So tell people a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you serve people. Because again, ministry is in pulpits and singing. Ministry is how you serve. And I believe that's your ministry. So tell us.
Well, so my name is Dr. Amber Wright. I am a relationship communication expert, speaker, and executive coach to high achieving women on the brink of their next level. And I came into this work because it is my God-given gift. My way with words and my way with people are my God-given gift. So God and I made a deal because I realized that people see him in me when I do what I do. The whole closing of the eyes, that's spirit. We can talk about that here, right? And so I made this pact with God and I was like, okay, I'm going to use this gift that you gave me because people see you in me when I use it, but I need you to provide for me and my family. Like that's the trade. Like that was the deal. If we can eat and pay our bills and, experience abundance, then I won't sit on the talent. And that's what I've done. And I'm very grateful that I say that my passion and my purpose are in alignment with my profession. I was able to build a profession. My work isn't new, but I'm just saying from my own life, I was able to build a career around my natural gifting.
Yeah. There was something you did right at the beginning. You said, I'm a communication expert. I help high achieve. So you said what you do, who you do it for, what's the problem they solve.
Yep.
And to me, that statement, being able to articulate that for a lot of people on here is what we struggle with. That's
Mm.
what a lot of us struggle with. It's like, I know I have something. What is it? Who's it for? So, kind of talk to us as a communication expert. What are some of the ways that we can put a handle on what we do, who we do it for, and what's the problem they have?
Mm. Uh, I first remove the ego.
Okay.
That's first. Sometimes we want to find all of this like super flowery language to try to explain what we do to people. And I know that sometimes that's the disconnect, in the sense that how it makes sense in your head doesn't always translate when you say it to other people. And so what is helpful is thinking about the consumer, thinking about the other person, and meeting them where they are. And sometimes it's hard to do that because you're so close to the work, but that's an easy exercise when you're just like, if I were to talk to someone who wasn't from here, who had no real context of what I do, how would I explain it? That's a really good way to start,
Okay.
by simplifying the language.
Okay.
Because, for example, when I worked in corporate America, my most recent role in corporate America was a few years ago, and I was a strategy and communication. I don't even remember the title. It was like 5 words.
Right. Right. Right.
Information security, strategy and communications, senior associate. What does that mean?
Right.
So I had to find a way to explain it to people, because they were like, Amber, what do you do with that job? And so my language was, I help a team of engineers make sure that their learning content makes sense to people who aren't engineers. That was the best way that I could explain what I did. So if you're struggling with trying to think about language, a fill in the blank that you can you an exercise, homework, because we love homework. Okay,
Come
over
on,
here.
get your pens out, folks. Get
Yeah,
your
get
pens
your
out.
pens
Come on.
out. This is an exercise that I do with my clients, and it is, you know how blank struggles with blank? I help them blank.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say that again.
Say that
You
again.
know how blank struggles with blank? I help them blank. You know how high achieving women struggle with finding harmony between their personal and professional lives? I help them prepare for their next level.
Ooh. Okay.
Your audience, what they're struggling with, and how you solve it.
Okay. Somebody needs to go ahead and put yours in the comments. Let's see. Somebody who's brave.
Yeah,
Like, just go ahead and put it
brainstorm.
out there. Just put it out there. Because
You know how blank struggles with blank? I help them blank.
Okay. So as we're talking about this, Amber, you talked about, okay, this is my passion, my purpose, and this stuff aligns. And when you found this, you said, okay, God, I want to make a living from this, right? This is
Mhm.
what we talk about, this monetization part of this. How did you first start off doing that? Because I want someone to know some first steps. Okay, I'm finding my thing, I'm whatever. Let's talk about yours.
Sure. Well, my very first business, I was an event planner. A lot of people don't know that, but this was many years ago. And so my personal philosophy is, you got to use what you got to get what you need. Okay.
Mhm.
That's the basics. Use what you got to get what you need. So I was working full time at a university by day, running their student union reservations office, managing 90,000 square foot of space. And then I was teaching at night. And I knew that that job was where I honed my speaking skills and career.
Mhm.
So even though I was responsible for reservations, I was already a professor. So I was already like teaching college classes. So when we had events that was for development and training for our students, I would give presentations on like polishing your public speaking skills. And then that turned into, somebody at the health center was there, and they were like, oh, can you do the same presentation at the health center? So mind you, I'm on the clock for my full-time job. But I recognized that this was also kind of the vein that I needed to be in and I wanted to be in. So while I was at that job, because I had to pay my mortgage every month, okay, the mortgage people didn't care where the money came from. They were like, where's the bill, sis? I used that time while I was employed to develop my skills as a speaker. I've been speaking my whole life, but really in terms of thinking about it as a business. And my first transition into doing the work that we all know words well said to be, I entered the job market, or the market, as a public speaking coach. And the
Mhm.
reason why I did that is because I was teaching public speaking at the collegiate level. I had already had my master's degree. I already was putting mileage on the education that I already had before I went out and sought all kind of certifications and things like that. And so why I use such simple language is because I knew that it would resonate with people. I knew that they would understand exactly what that meant. And I already had the credibility to be doing that.
Ah, that's good. That's good.
So I was a novice to entrepreneurship when I started my business, but I wasn't a novice to the work.
That's good. That's good. Somebody needs to hear that. You might be new to this part of it, but all your experience with all the things you've done, and especially as we talk about in this platform, even the things you've done in the church world and other places serving people, you bring that experience and you stand on that experience.
Yep. And I didn't abandon my responsibilities. There's this idea where I think we kind of over glamorize entrepreneurship. Like, oh, I'm working remotely at the pool, my office today, I'm on the beach and whatever. That's cute. But I had to go to work.
Yeah.
And so, but while I was doing what I had to do to take care of my responsibilities, I also wanted to see that the business was viable. And what turned the shift for me was I was a blogger for a long time, and I wanted to know more about that industry. And so I started going to blogging conferences.
Mhm.
While I was at these conferences, I realized that some writers don't always make the best speakers. So some of those speakers who were not the best, they became my clients. I was like, oh, this is how I'm going to show up in the marketplace. So this is how I was able to niche down.
Right.
I was like, yes, I'm a public speaking coach, and I work with digital creators, bloggers, writers who want to hone their public speaking skills. And that was like the transition for me into really deciding who I was meant to show up for in that beginning season. What I'm doing now was always my bigger vision, but I was willing to say, I'm going to start off this way. And then after I got some legs in this field and that, doing that work, you started to see me use language of defining or describing myself as a communication expert. And that was intentional on my part because I no longer wanted to be pigeonholed as a public speaking coach because I knew that my work was going to expand beyond that.
I love it. If y'all are here, people are posting their, I help, you know who? I help them with this struggle. So wonderful. Keep doing that. Keep doing that. Keep doing that. We love it. I'm reading one from Alicia Alexander. You know how people struggle with forgiveness? I help them hear the voice of forgiveness. I see you looking up in the, I see it, Amber. You started to do that. Starting to do that thing. By the way, Amber,
that is your gift. This to me because I'm going to be like, let's talk about that. Let's workshop that. Yeah.
You talked about being willing to start somewhere and grow into what you want to get to, and I think that's a good lesson for everyone. Now, I want to get to what you've done with Can We Talk cards, because for a lot of people, when we talk about monetizing, we may not think in terms of how my expertise can be turned into a product. So I want you to talk about how you did that, how you made communication, like helping people talk, a product.
So my decision to actually create a product, it took me a long time because I did not want to make t-shirts and mugs just because everybody was making t-shirts and mugs. So I was very slow to product creation. I knew that if I wanted to put something out there, that I wanted it to feel like an extension of the work that I was already doing. And so I was a professor, as I mentioned earlier, for 8 years. And when you teach, you're always looking for some type of no-brainer icebreaker activity that doesn't require any tech or commit, like a lot of materials. So conversation starters are not new, but I was like, I can make my own. I'm inquisitive. I'm a curious person. I think that I can do this. So it was me just knowing that although there's nothing new under the sun, there are no conversation starters with my name on them. Yeah. And I wanted something, again, that felt relevant to the work that I was already doing. And so when people struggle with that too, you might have an idea where you're like, oh, well, somebody else is already doing the same thing. I always tell people, go to the drugstore and see how many shades of red lipstick there are on the shelves. Just because Revlon has a red shade doesn't mean that Maybelline can't have one. They didn't say, well, too bad for the red lipstick. Somebody already did it. They just change the formula and call it something else. So for those of you who don't know, my product is called Can We Talk cards. They are 50 questions designed to help you take the guesswork out of small talk. So there's 5 different versions, because I want them to go with you in every area of your life. And that was my choice to enter into the product side, because also having a service-based business as a speaker and through coaching, there's cycles with that. Sometimes it's slower than others or what have you, but products can be sold year round. So I knew that I wanted something that was complementary to the work that I was already doing.
Yeah. Amber, I want to take us back just a little bit. And if we're about to open it up, I want you to put your questions in here. And maybe, Amber, you might workshop something here just so that we can get a
Sure.
little, an example of it. But there's a simplicity of how you say stuff. There's a simplicity how you just said the cards. There's a simplicity of what I do. There's a simplicity of what I've done in this season. Now, of course, it may not be everyone's gift, but maybe you can give us 3 steps to take what you have and make it very clear for people to know what it is. If I could ask you that, put you on the spot, give me 3 steps.
Um,
It's a good one, right?
yeah, it is, because I think I want to say that it's simple, but it's not easy, and I
Mm-hmm.
recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I don't know that I can even order it into steps
Okay. Okay.
beyond the formula that I offered earlier as an example. And that doesn't even necessarily have to be a script. That
Mm-hmm.
just helps you break through the noise in your brain of trying to find the language to describe what you do and how you do it. But I think on a simple level, start as though you were talking to a child. So as you know, we island people, right? My family's from Central America. They're from Honduras, from Roatan. Shout out to my folks. And my grandmother, this little old tiny island lady, she didn't know what it meant to be a speaker. So when I talked to my grandmother, I never was like, "Oh, grandma, I'm going to be a speaker." I would still tell her that I was teaching. She was like, "Oh, baby, you can teach." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, like I flew to somewhere to go teach, right?" So you also just kind of have to know how to meet people where they are and just not reject the simplicity of the language. So we talked about workshopping for a second. I'm just going to read this comment here before we transition. This
Go
one
ahead.
says, "You know how single women struggle with loneliness and unfulfillment? Do they? Do single women struggle with that? Or is it a type of single woman?" So
Mm.
maybe it's, do you know how lonely single women, because not all single people are unfulfilled. So really thinking about who your work is for and then what their challenge is helps you strip some of the language down. So it says, I help them love their life even when there is not a love in their life. Okay, maybe not a romantic love, right? So there's ways. This is the beginning of being able to kind of workshop to really think about who your person is. And so maybe if I had to put it in number 2, so 1, simplify the language. 2, think about the person. Like give your avatar, your ideal client, a name.
Mm-hmm.
So then that way when you're writing and you're talking, like if say her name is Denise, the single woman who wants to find love, what is she struggling with? What does she cry about when she writes in her journal at night? What is she praying about?
Mm-hmm.
And how can your work help her? And then that's what gives you the language that resonates with Denise specifically, because you've thought about her in writing your content.
Good. I love it. It sounds like even when we have, it may be put a draft down and just question and probe that draft from the eyes and the mind of your avatar.
Yep. So like I mentioned with the cards, 50 questions to help you take the guesswork out of small talk. People don't like small talk. You know why they don't like small talk? Because they don't know what to say sometimes. So this solves that problem.
I love it. All right. I see a question here.
Mhm.
Someone says, how is your product manufactured? So someone's trying to get a little bit more of the
Sure.
practical. Just give us, and maybe even how you went about getting it manufactured.
I invested in a consultant
Mm.
who initially helped me get the product up on Amazon. And it was through my process of working with that particular consulting firm that we got the product redesigned. And and I feel for context, I just want to show an example so people understand what I mean. This is what they originally look like. This was
Mhm.
actually the second version. Kimon has the
Yeah,
original, like old
yeah,
school
I got, yeah.
white boxes with a sticker I printed myself. Okay, do not despise humble beginnings. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I was cutting stickers myself on a white box. So we upgraded from that to this design to this one. So this took time. These products have been in the marketplace since 2018. And it was through that process was just how I found my manufacturer in China. And so that they are produced offshore.
Yeah. I think that's a good point there. Like everything I've heard from you is start, iterate, get better,
Mm-hmm.
shift, pivot, and I don't want anyone to leave like, well, I'm not ready for the last version of the cars you showed. But if you start, then you'll get there. So I think that's something I
Yes.
want you to get.
Yep. That's
Someone's
it.
asking, where can we get the cards? They want to take the guesswork out of small talk.
Am I okay to share?
Go ahead. Sure.
You can go to canwetalkcards.com.
That's easy. And if
Easy.
someone could type it in the chat, we'll put it up on the screen. Dr. Amber, before you leave, what's a word you might give to someone? They have this ministry, they are getting ready to get started, but they're a bit afraid if it fails, right? What if I try starting this business and it doesn't work? And what would you say to them?
My response to that is something that my mother used to say to me, which is the answer is already no if you don't ask. The answer is already no if you don't ask. So if you are afraid to start and to try, same thing when I was writing my dissertation. The best dissertation is a done dissertation. There's no doctor without the dissertation.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to get through that is to actually sit down and do it.
Yeah.
So you won't really know if there's actually a dilemma until you do the thing.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Dr. Amber L. Wright, thank you so much for the Monetize Your Ministry Summit, being our kickoff presenter today, helping us to understand how to clarify our message. And I hope you all took that template that, you know, who struggles with, I help them to blank, right? So make sure you have your draft of that. You work on your draft. Dr. Amber, thank you.